not even quite sure where to begin, but I guess I'll start with giving some background info. I'm now a 25-year-old female, but when I first moved into my apartment, I was only 21 or 22 at the time. The apartment complex I lived in was very quiet for the most part. Lots of younger families and old people lived there. It was also in a golf course community in my hometown, which was a smallish town with very moderate crime rate. When I moved in, I didn't know the neighbors to the left of me, but about 2 years into my lease, there was a middle-aged couple that moved in. I never got their names, but somehow the husband knew mine, which actually wasn't too odd because the old people there are really chatty, and I'm sure in passing they learned my name. I'm a very intuitive person, and I can usually pick up cues when someone isn't really good people. My first few instances with the husband, I immediately got really weird vibes from him. In hindsight, he didn't really do anything out of the normal at first. It was just a gut feeling I had. Whenever he was with his wife and I would try to talk to him, the husband would cut his wife off and try and talk for her, it seemed. Really weird, but okay. Well, after about a year of my boyfriend moving in with me, he fell off a golf cart on Christmas Eve and suffered a traumatic brain injury. He wasn't allowed to drive for 6 months, so I was responsible for taking him to and from work during those 6 months. He's a workaholic and he works really late most of the time, so I was alone at the house until 10 to 11 most nights. Somehow or another, this creepy next-door neighbor finds out that my boyfriend had a TBI and that he wasn't driving. Now, this guy knew that I was alone on most nights, and he decided to purposefully do things to fuck with me. There's one instance that sent chills up my spine, and still really sticks out in my memory and makes me absolutely thankful we moved out of that apartment and into a house in the country 20 miles away. So one night I get home from the store or hanging out with a friend, and like always, I sat in the car in the parking lot playing on my phone. Doors locked, of course, because I'm paranoid. And after maybe about 10 minutes, as I'm about to turn the car off and then go inside, I look to my far right and I see my next door neighbor standing in the breezeway of the building directly across from ours. It's maybe 9 p.m. by now, so I just assume he's walking his dog or taking the trash out or something. I resume to playing on my phone and I decide to look up once more. He hasn't moved. He's standing in the breezeway with the light behind him, so I can just see a silhouette, but I just know for a fact it's him. I was always taught to stare back at the person who's making you feel uncomfortable, so either they break eye contact or speak the fuck up about what they're staring at you for. So I'm staring back at him, and he just backs up further into the breezeway out of my sight. I'm now slightly creeped out at this point, but I decided right then and there that I wasn't getting out of the car and going inside. That is, until my boyfriend called me to go pick him up from work. I turned my phone's brightness down to hopefully give him a less clear view of me sitting in the car in the dark. Not even 5 minutes later, he's walking from the far side of the complex, complete opposite side from our building. I see that he's not walking his dog, he's got no garbage can, so I can assume that he didn't take the trash to the dumpster. He walks on the sidewalk right in front of my car, stops and stares straight into my soul, all while pointing at me with his index finger and middle finger, kinda like a peace sign, but in a pointing motion. He finally continues on his walk and then walks to his work van parked 2 or 3 spots away to my left. There's no cars in between mine and his. He grabs some empty grocery bags out of his van, takes a surprisingly long time grabbing them, and proceeds to walk back into the direction he came. He then stops in front of the car yet again, stares at me for a second, then continues on. There's a sidewalk perpendicular to the one he's on, and at the end of that sidewalk, there's another that's parallel to the one he's currently on. From aerial view, it's in the shape of the letter H. Our building is to the left. The one he was standing at earlier when I first spotted him was to the right. He stopped maybe 5 more times between my car and our apartment building, turning back to face me every time he stops. This sent chills down my spine, and I immediately texted my boyfriend to let him know the weird neighbor was being a creep and that I felt like he was purposefully trying to scare me. I go pick up my boyfriend and we arrive back home on total edge from this creep. My boyfriend leaves something in the car, so as I'm approaching our front door to unlock it, he jogs back to the car, and lo and behold, my creepy ass neighbor is walking up and saying hey to me, also using my name. Again, I've never once introduced myself with my name. I'm guessing another neighbor had said it in passing, but it still really freaked me out after this interaction while I was sitting in the car. There's a half dozen other things this guy's done both before and after this night that gave me the creeps. My boyfriend walked me to the dumpster and to the on-site laundromat because he was too creeped out. He's much more naive than I am by default, but he's not too naive to write this off as an innocent run-in with the neighbor. As I'm writing this, I feel like I can't even paint the picture of just how fucking creepy it really was. I mean, maybe I really was overreacting, but my gut at the time was telling me something was off, and I listened. This happened only a month ago, and it doesn't really scare me anymore. It just constantly makes me think, what if? I'm in college, and I'm still living with my parents and older sister. It was spring break, and my parents went on a road trip while my sister and I stayed home alone. 2 nights after my parents left town, I was at the house alone because my sister was out with her boyfriend. It was around 5 or 6 o'clock, and I decided to go work out because I was really bored and I could use it. I live less than half a mile from a hotel, so I used their gym because it's so close. I was going to jog there like I usually did, but I changed my mind right before I left because I didn't want to walk back home from the gym. I knew that I would be all tired if I did that, so I got my keys and I decided to drive to the gym. I walked out of the front door and I paused for a second because I got a random feeling to lock the front and back door. My mom is really paranoid about locking the doors and windows because she's scared that a crazy person will break in or hurt us, or worse, kill us. She always tells me to lock the door, but I rarely do, especially if I'm leaving the house for only a short period of time. But for some reason, I got a feeling to lock the doors. So I went back inside, locked the back door, and made sure to lock the front door as well when I left. I drove to the gym, and I was then there for about an hour and a half. Not long after I got there, I randomly got a really bad gut feeling that made my stomach twist and anxiety high. I also have paranoia about things like my mother, but it's different. For some weird reason, I'd blamed the bad gut feeling on my house catching on fire with no one able to save my dog because I had locked both doors. But it doesn't consume my thoughts or make me want to go home or anything. I finally leave and I get back home in minutes. My house wasn't on fire, which I knew deep down that it wasn't anyways. So I get out of the car and I walk to my front door, pulling out my keys to unlock it. But before I had even reached to unlock the door, I then paused because I saw a brown napkin-looking thing wrapped tightly around the door handle. My mind instantly went to the recent fentanyl poisonings, and how there were cases of things like napkins and bills being smeared with fentanyl, causing people to overdose when they touched them. I didn't touch it. I called my parents because I started to get scared, and I didn't really know what to do. My mother was understandably freaked out, and she told me not to touch it. I talked with my dad, and men being men, no hate, logic is appreciated here. He tried to be logical and then tell me that someone must have put an ad on the door handle and that another person must have ripped it off our door. I then FaceTimed them and I showed them what it looked like. It clearly wasn't an ad. It looked like thick paper bag material. I also made sure to tell them that I was staring right at the door handle before I left for the gym, and there was absolutely nothing on the door handle before, meaning someone came up and wrapped it around the door handle while I was at the gym. I was pretty freaked out, but it was early dusk outside, so there was still a good amount of light around me, thankfully. My mom calmed me down, but my dad was still thinking we were overreacting. I unlocked the door, got my gloves from my dad's truck, and I took the brown napkin thing off the door handle, throwing it on the ground very fast. I kept the gloves on, opened the door, went inside, put the gloves in the washing machine, then wiped my front door handle with Clorox wipes. I then shut the door and locked it, not knowing what to do with the paper bag that was just lying on the porch. I say paper bag now because as I looked at the bag on the ground through the window, I could clearly see that it was a small paper brown bag, and it was 100% not an ad someone puts on people's doors. It looked like the type of paper bag that holds sauces or silverware from a restaurant, and it was curled into a C shape from being wrapped around the handle so tightly. I kept watching outside my house through my windows, but I never saw anyone or even a feeling of being watched. I calmed down completely, and I had waited for my sister and her boyfriend to come home. I called my own boyfriend, and I told him all about it. He promised to leave me with Second Amendment protection for the rest of the time my parents were gone, because he was really creeped out that someone would come up and put a brown bag on our door, whether it had fentanyl or not. My sister came home, and I told her and her boyfriend everything. They were freaked out too, also assuming that there was probably fentanyl on the bag. Them being there gave me courage, so I went back outside with gloves on, and I picked up the suspicious brown paper bag. I went back inside to show them. They both gathered around me and then watched as I started to uncrumple the bag from its C shape. On the inside of the C shape, the part that was touching the door handle, there was a gooey clear liquid that had the consistency of runny snot smeared all across the inside of it. We all went silent as our fentanyl fears were even greater. I quickly closed the bag and then put it in the trash, taking off the gloves and putting those in the washing machine as well. That was the end of it though. Nothing new or weird since then. I really wish we had cameras or a ring so we'd have more information on who, how, and why. I would really like to know what you guys think it was. To anyone who hears this, do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think it really was fentanyl wrapped up in that tiny little napkin? Or do you think it was a sex trafficking tactic? I live near Houston, not too close, but a good distance. I know the sex trafficking is hot there. Or maybe it was someone who was just really high and just randomly chose our house to mess with, and actually put snot on our door handle. But that's really not likely because we have police officers that stroll through the neighborhood. And people don't just walk around high like that. It's a small neighborhood too, only 8 streets. And even without the police officers, this is a decent neighborhood, with maybe a few but most likely no drug users. It's really just a bunch of old people. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments, because I still really wonder about it a lot. I'm a 28-year-old female now, and at the time this happened almost 6 to 7 years ago. I'd spent the night at my boyfriend's now husband's house, and his mom went out of town, and we were waiting for his brother to come home, so we kept the door unlocked. It was around 11 to 12 during the fall time, and it was somewhat dark enough for the streetlight to be on. We had moved our bed out into the living room, because why not? There was a big TV to play our video games on. Our backs were turned to the door, and we had heard a car pull up, and we heard just one door shut, but the vehicle still on sounded like a big truck. We didn't really think anything of it because at the time my brother-in-law was getting rides from friends because he was saving up money for a car, so we never knew what kind of car would pick him up. We then heard footsteps on the porch, and then the doorknob slowly turning. And at the same time, our 2 dogs who are a lab husky mix then growl at the door. We had noticed the light from the streetlight, and then we heard the door slam. The truck then peels out of our driveway, and it's going so fast you can hear the tires screech. Me and my husband just looked at one another, very confused. We then get up and slowly make our way to the door, looking for anything we could find for weapons. We then do a walk around the house with our dogs. Now, our dogs are very lovable dogs, but the boy dog will not hesitate to defend his family, and the girl dog will do the same, but she'll try to leave it to her brother. She's a very anxious dog. She has anxiety, so to hear her growl like that really shocked us. After we look around the house, my husband calls his brother, asking if he had just left the house, peeling out of the driveway. He then replied back with, No, man, I'm still at work. I'll be doing a double tonight, so I won't be back until early morning, maybe even mid-afternoon. That made my husband's face turn completely white. We left the house in his mom's car, and we left our own vehicle in the driveway in case they came back. We decided to park up the street from our house so that we were able to see our house perfectly. My mother-in-law's car wasn't parked in the driveway. It never really is, as she always parked away from the house, so these people would have no idea what her car looks like. A few hours go by, and we're still in the car, looking at the house. We're getting pretty tired at this point. Our dogs are also restless from being in the car for so long. We figured it would be okay now to go back home since those people never came back. We then leave my husband's mom's car where we parked it at, and we walked back. That was honestly the longest walk of our lives. We're so tired at this point, and we lock everything up. It's 4:30 a.m. now, and we're now awakened to our dogs going absolutely crazy and also foaming at the mouth. Someone's trying to get in the house through the window in the kitchen, and they broke it. When my husband saw this, he ran to the guy full force, and he pushes him out, leaving him to fall on his back and cry out for the others. I heard one trying to bust the back door down, and I then called the cops, letting them know what was going on. I then threw down the phone and I raced to my husband, who had told me quietly to run up to the attic, and he tossed me the dogs. I'm now running as I pass the back door, and someone actually got me with a knife across my arm. I actually got a pretty good gash from it. I stopped and looked at him, and I struck him with a kick to the nuts. And as soon as he got down, I then kneed him and ran upstairs. I heard one of my dogs whimpering, and I stop in the hallway, turning around, and it's my girl dog. One of those fuckers that actually stabbed my dog. My husband had the guy who did it in a headlock, and he was hitting him in the face. We had finally heard the sirens from a distance. The cops were here. Feeling confident, I run for the front door, and I kick the guy in the face who struck me with the knife because he was actually still down for me kicking him in the nuts. I run out of my house with my hands up, and I then tell the cops that my husband has one in custody and that another intruder is down near the back door. We watch the cops take away the two men. The cops seem to believe that this was more than just a two-man job. My husband got a few cuts and bruises, and I had to get a few stitches. Our dog was also okay, thank God. We still live in that house, and we updated our house with a ton of cameras and much better windows. I know this situation probably sounded like a movie, but it really did happen, and it's still the scariest thing that's ever happened to either of us. Please, everyone, stay safe out there.
Stay spooked. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more chilling stories.